to post your questions. Please also, if you are not speaking, keep your audio on mute as to allow for the speaker to be able to engage with us today. I want to thank you again for coming. My name is Helen Azenwa. I'm the Assistant Dean for the Stewart School of Business. That being said, I'm going to transition over to our Senior Associate Director, Shahzad Hussain, to introduce our speaker.
Thank you, Ellen. I would like to now introduce our speaker, Michael Smyth. Michael Smyth is the Chief Financial Officer at Wintrust Wealth Management for the past nearly 3 years. He is a senior finance and accounting professional with strong skills in financial planning and analysis, as well as sound controls and governance in the highly regulated financial services industry. Prior to joining Wintrust, Michael was the CFO at the Equity Trust Company for about 3 years. He has also worked at BMO Harris Bank for over 7 years as the Director of Finance and the Chief Financial Officer. Michael has a bachelor's in accounting and finance from DePaul University and is a certified public accountant and is a certified financial and operations principal. I take this opportunity to welcome Michael and thank you very much, Michael, for taking out your precious time to be with us.
Hi, Shahzad. Thank you. Do I sound okay? Is there any reverb coming from me, or am I okay?
You're good.
Okay. And if I use the, I'm just trying to share my screen so I can go over the presentation.
Sure.
Let me see here. Present your entire screen. Okay. Share now. Bear with me. Select window or screen. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, we're we're ready to go. So, well, first of all, Shahzad and Helen, thank you for having me join you. It's nice to follow up with you again, coming out of the mock interviews that I participated in the spring, and this feels like kind of a natural progression for me. To basically today, I want for the benefit of the students, I just want to share a little bit of perspective. Number one, a little bit about Wintrust, and then a little bit about also careers in finance, and then more specifically, my career in finance, because that's the world of finance is a wide and deep universe. So there will be a little bit of this in here today. That is my story. So as I'm sharing the screen here, I just mentioned that we're do a little bit of overview on Wintrust, the bank, as well as the wealth management business for which I'm the CFO. Who, what, where, when, and why, and how in terms of careers in finance. A few questions along the way that might help guide the discussion. And in particular, I'm trying to share some things around what we do in finance, what might be the skills or how how you might come to be in a role and the types of things that are important, and then why the field of finance is important. Certainly it is to me. So there'll be a little bit of general things, what we do in Wintrust Wealth Management Finance, and then a little bit of my own personal story. Shahzad, you mentioned it earlier, but I do want to encourage this to be as back and forth and as informative as possible. So there are opportunities to put questions into the chat room. So I'll take it from there and just provide a little bit of the company that I work for. So I work for Wintrust, which was started in 1991 by Ed Waymer. And Ed started this company at a time when there were plenty of banking competitors in Chicago, but they were getting bigger. And Ed felt like there was an opportunity to continue to bring community banking to clients in a way that did not, did not ignore them. Bigger banks, we're a medium-sized bank. So we wanted to just continue to press forward with person-to-person banking and do it in a way that emphasized customers and clients and have that community banking feel. Ours is a pretty simple business in that we're concentrated in community banking, large commercial banking clients, wealth management, and mortgage services. We're a $45 billion bank with 5,400 employees. That would very much put us in the middle market as it relates to the size of the company by capitalization and other kinds of measures. We are a public company under the symbol of Wintrust WTFC. And in 2020, this is public information, the company earned $300 million. I mentioned Ed Waymer a moment ago, who founded the company in 1991. I want to share with you one story that'll give you a feel for our company. A colleague of mine told me the following story, and it was validated by another person that I had spoken to, and it related to the 2008 financial crisis and the financial meltdown. And as you might expect, like many banks, Wintrust had loans that went sour and was taking losses and whatnot. And Ed Waymer had said to his management team that the employees did not create this problem, did not create this issue, did not create the financial contagion, and they weren't going to pay for it. So while many organizations may have done layoffs at that time, Ed chose not to. He felt that the employees had stayed with the company, and that kind of thread is still a little bit of the part of our culture. So I did want to mention that to give you a sense of how we interact with each other, and how we roll at Wintrust. So that's a little bit about the company at a high level. I mentioned before different parts of our business. We do community banking. We have a very significant mortgage division. I highlighted wealth management because that is the part of the business in which I work, that I'm the CFO for. We have commercial banking clients, mostly in the middle market. We have what's called an insurance premium finance business. So this is lending to companies to finance insurance premiums, casualty, property, other types of insurance premiums. It's a little bit of a niche business within lending, but Wintrust is one of the leading providers of that type of lending across the United States. And then we do some payroll funding and processing as well. So that's Wintrust, the company. We're headquartered in Rosemont. We're quite we're out there in terms of our brand. We're big supporters of the Chicago Cubs. You'll see our branding there, Chicago White Sox, and we're out in the community. The wealth management business. So part of our strategy in wealth management would be, you may have heard this term before, but it's expand the share of wallet. We have a business that provides personal investments to individual high net worth customers. We have an asset management business that does portfolio discretionary management. We also do a significant amount of portfolio and investment management for institutions, for unions, for school districts, Illinois police, fire, and a lot of non-for-profits. We have a trust company where we do wealth transfer and other kinds of estate planning for wealthy individuals. And then something very specific, 1031 exchanges, is exchanging property in a tax-deferred manner. So this is a little bit of Wintrust Wealth Management. I mentioned earlier the company in total has $300 million of earnings, and depending on the year, wealth management would be about 5 to 10% of the earnings. And again, that is also publicly available information. A little bit more of the size of our business. We have 300 employees. We have a little over 30,000 accounts, and we have $31 billion of assets that we manage for our clients. While Wintrust started in 1991, the company acquired in the late 90s or 2000, I think it was, Wayne Hummer Investments, which was a longstanding investment firm in the city of Chicago. There's certain highlights along the way here that will be saved out in the presentation, I think, that can be viewed at a later time. The bank and Wintrust Wealth Management, we've done a fair number of acquisitions along the way. So growing organically and also growing by acquisition has been a pretty significant part of our growth and a part of our story. Okay, I'm going to turn to page 9 and talk more specifically about the field of finance and careers in financial services. So in stepping back and thinking about this conversations, there's a lot of different roles within the field of finance. Many of you are on a path now that will be going into something quite specific, like chartered financial analyst. Maybe someday you want to be a chief financial officer. But the world of finance just covers so many different things: auditing, leasing, insurance, investment banking, data analytics, which I know a number of you, I know a number of students at IIT are majoring in that discipline. That's also increasingly a significant part of the field of finance as well. But there's many roles in this industry and in this occupation. And different ways that you all can find opportunities to work in the finance industry. There's also roles within finance that are more applicable to every industry and every field. So we have operations functions, we have IT functions, we have marketing functions, we have human resource functions within the industry of finance as well, working both in our company and in the industry. So that's sort of some of the roles that exist within the world of finance. This next slide here, this is information that I cut and pasted from my resume. The summary at the top of my resume says this paragraph right here. And then later on in my resume, there is these bullets that I've included in terms of skills that I've acquired along the way. Taking the conversation from a more general understanding of jobs and what roles are in finance, I've been very much a specialist within financial services. I started my career in public accounting, working on clients that were both bank and non-bank clients. I've spent a lot of time on mergers and acquisitions. I've spent a lot of time on working in these very specific kinds of industries: capital markets, corporate banking, custody, wealth management within financial services. I've acquired certain skills along the way, and I put this information out here for you to sort of give you a sense of people can be generalists within our industry, and then people like me can be very specific. I've gone down a path of being in a particular industry, and I do very specific things, and I've been sort of in that space for most of my career. And I guess I would pose the question to you: what's your journey going to look like, and how will you figure that out? And I've got a few pointers on that along the way, but you all are thinking about your careers. Maybe these are decisions you've made, maybe these things are you're thinking about, but early on in contemplating your career, there's different paths that you can take. And I'm hoping today with the presentation and maybe some Q&A to give you a little bit of perspective, which I mentioned earlier. So this is very specific about me. This also tells people that I might be, if I was looking for a job, what I am and what I am not. You look at this sort of background and skills, I'm not going to get hired to be in oil and gas or manufacturing. Probably not going to get hired to be in taxation. There's a very specific story here, and we all have that as we progress in many ways through our career. So that's more of a specific sort of background on me, on where I come from. If I want to think about finance, I often talk about and describe a pyramid. A pyramid of functions that my team and I have 5 associates that work with me. Our team does these things, and these would be kind of consistent functions and responsibilities that would be in most finance functions across many companies and many industries, whether it's for-profit or non-for-profit. And they build upon each other. But I'd also say that if I was in a job of transaction processing and financial control, that's a little bit different than people that do decision support and strategic management. So as you look at this view and visual of the types of roles that are in finance, that not all finance roles are created equal in terms of the kinds of skills that are required, the kinds of knowledge that are required, even within a finance function within a wealth management firm like Wintrust Wealth Management. But we spend time across all four of these layers of the pyramid. We have books of record and general ledger. We have to understand all the codification of accounting and financial accounting and policy. Financial systems. We have a significant number of systems that come into general ledger upstream that end up downstream. How all that connects means that we have to understand that data and those data flows and have some acumen in the area of financial systems. Financial control is involved with reconciliation, internal controls, attestation. I work for a public company that is subject to the Sarbanes-Oxley Act. On a quarterly basis, I have to attest to the accuracy of our books and records and that transactions are recorded appropriately. And so governance is a significant part of the world that I and my team live in. As a part of a bank and as part of a regulated securities firm, or broker-dealer is the term, we are subject to an annual audit by Ernst & Young. They're our outside auditors, so we spend a lot of time on audit functions and attestation and providing information to third parties who are going to verify, validate, and provide a clean opinion on our financial statements. And we are also involved in regulatory compliance. Our companies are regulated by the Securities and Exchange Act of 1934. Shahzad had mentioned at the beginning of the conversation that I'm a financial and operations principal. I am licensed to be a financial principal within the securities industry. It means that I make filings every month. I attest to those filings every month. We have FINRA, the Securities Exchange Commission. All of those bodies examine and audit our books and records and our business practices on a periodic basis. So financial control, a very, very big part of the world that I work in Wintrust Wealth Management. Decision support. We budget, we forecast, we make predictions based on sales and costs and risk management and all kinds of different factors to forecast and budget what our financial results will be. And then on a monthly basis, quarterly basis, we report out against what we planned and what we budgeted and what we forecasted. And so it's a significant amount of work is telling the news, the storytelling of what happened financially and why things happened and what those storylines are and what that financial commentary is, in order to inform, in order to help our management team understand what's going on in their business and to help point out to them things that they should be paying attention to. And then lastly, we have to be involved in long-range planning, strategic management. Where is the company going? What are the opportunities? Looking at M&A, we score a lot of M&A today. Our company is an acquisitive company. We're looking to grow both by acquiring customers organically, but also through M&A. Customer data. Many of you that I had interviewed back in the spring, I think were in the field of data analytics. Our customer data is a strategic priority as well. What does that mean? What is our customer behavior? How do we act on that? How do we use that information for client offerings? How do we use that information to engage with our clients? There's a significant financial element to that work as it relates to the finance function at Wintrust, and also competitive benchmarking. In my world, we look at the outside world. We want to know how we're performing against our competitors that exist within the wealth management and the bank-based wealth management business. So that's a little bit of what my team and I do today. And then I'm going to turn a little bit. So this is a little bit of the what. What do we do in finance? Well, that's all well and good, Michael, but how? How might I pursue a field in corporate finance? What are some of the things that are important? If I would break it down, I would say there are certain knowledge and skills and attributes that are important to certainly to me as I'm thinking about people on my team, and I don't think that these would be terminally unique. I think that many CFOs might sit here and might write something slightly different, but that these bullet points would be sort of relevant to people like yourself that are thinking about how do I become a finance professional? You're all work at school at a very, very good institution, and so you're going to get and you're going to gather your technical background and your formal education that will be in finance, data analytics. Perhaps you're going to major in finance in a way that you go on to become a CFA. That will not stop as you move certainly into a regulated industry. You will be contemplating things like licensing and certification, and continuing, and CPE. That's not just something that is relevant and applicable to the world that I live in today, but in many industries, you're going to continue to learn and acquire the specific knowledge to be a finance professional. Skills. Detailed oriented and a focus on precision. There's parts of the world that I'm in there's a very, very high premium on that. We like to value at Wintrust critical thinking and analysis, not making assumptions, but using information to analyze results and have educated conversations about business trends. The next one is a little bit of mine, but I would say that formal communication in the world of business, in the world of finance, is very important, and I might also say it's a rare art. Being able to write well, being able to communicate in memo, being able to communicate in presentation, those are very, very important skills, and they're not always in abundant supply, to be perfectly frank. So being able to communicate well is quite important, and the tools to process high volumes of data, Power BI, other kinds of tools. I did not grow up in that world. My sense is the education that you receive today and the background that you come from over the past 20 or 25 years, you're getting that built into your formal education. But as we hire people, we are absolutely looking for individuals who are comfortable working with high volumes of data and have a knack for working with data in terms of skills. Attributes, I might also call these values. One of the things that I find important for myself and the people that I work with, do I know myself? Do I have self-awareness? And that can mean many things. It can mean that I know what I'm doing well. It can mean what the things that I know I need to improve on. It could mean I know what kind of environment I want to work in and what kind of environment I don't want to work in. Do I want to work in a large company? Do I want to work in a small company? Do I want to be a solo producer working on my own, or do I want to have a team? So working through my career and thinking for you about your careers, being self-aware and knowing yourself is quite important, I believe. I mentioned it earlier with CPE, but in my job, I've never stopped reading. I've never stopped learning. I've never stopped thinking about the world that I live in, because it helps me understand the business. I'm not just a finance person. I'm a business person. And so being a curious, lifelong learner is something that will serve you well. Having a bias for action. You go into a job, I go into a job. Am I going to do that job, or am I going to look at that role and those systems and that processes, and am I going to try and make it better? Very, very important in the workplace today that as you think about where you're going, that you make recommendations and you try to improve upon what's already there. That'll make you very, very valuable in the eyes of your colleagues, as well as your managers and your organization. And then the last thing in terms of an attribute, am I working for the greater good of the company? I mean, I guess we would very simply say that is a team player. Am I a team player? Do I look out for the company? It's a really, really valuable attribute in terms of how people conduct themselves in the workplace, and certainly something that I strive for on a daily basis as well. I added a couple of things here because I was thinking about at my point in my career, what would be some of the things I might tell myself if I was in your shoes? And one of the things that I might say to a younger Michael Smith was make sure that I'm getting coached. What I've learned later in life is that getting coached is the fastest way I can go from point A to point B. The reason being, I don't know everything. I know a lot, but I don't know everything. And I don't have all the perspectives and the diversity of perspective that I need to keep growing. And so I'm trying to share here, I'm trying to be an example here, but if I were to give advice here, this would be the one within this presentation that I would say to you is to make sure that you continue to get help and seek help from people who might be more senior, from people you know in the industry, from people you know from school, your former professors. I've never been surprised is not the word. I'm never surprised by how much people want to help and how people want to share what they know to help you. And I think this would be an invaluable way to help you as you go through your career. And my sense is that many of you are very in tune with the idea of networking and staying in contact with people that are connected to what you do. But it's really an invaluable part of your toolbox as you continue to grow as a professional. So this is a little bit of how we become finance professionals, which was probably something that could be cut and pasted into different industries, different kinds of jobs and opportunities. So that's a little bit of how.
Michael, thank you so much for this. Are you open to taking a question now?
Yeah, you know what? I can't see the chat, right? So I'm just so yes, absolutely. Please let
Are
me.
you okay with us breaking in with some questions?
Yes, absolutely. I'm sorry,
Okay.
I couldn't bear with me for a moment so I can see if I can't actually see the.
Don't worry, I can read it to you.
Yeah.
So one question that came in is, what would you recommend to those in the middle of their career trying to change their occupation and enter the finance industry?
Okay, I think part of it I just mentioned. So first of all, I would say, well, before I get to that, let's stay here. There are resources out there. There are people that you can speak with. There are things that you may need to learn in the way of knowledge and skills and attributes. You could reach out to people like me. You could reach out to others. There may be some retooling. There are people that may have grown up in an engineering background, or it might have been a liberal arts background, and there could be some specific things that they may need to learn if they wanted to be some of these types of roles. So it's a number of things, Helen. It could be acquiring different knowledge, and it could be just getting help, as I mentioned here.
Great, thank you.
Okay, I'm going to keep going, and we can come back to that if we need to. Why would you want to be in a finance career? There's a few things that I thought about in this question. You know, one of the things that I value quite a bit for myself is something that Warren Buffett is quoted as saying. To know accounting, which is what I grew up in, accounting and finance, is in many ways to know the language of business. Now, I know he expanded on that because it was applicable to interpreting financial statements and what that meant for valuing stocks, which is something that Warren Buffett has made a career of. But I really gravitated towards, if I understand accounting, I do understand business. And so I've found that to be something very compelling as I think about why am I in this field, and why do I enjoy it? A couple of other things. There's a variety of experience in what I do, from transaction processing to financial governance and control to decision and support to strategic management, that has left me challenged constantly for over 30 years. So I am intellectually challenged all the time, which I find very enjoyable. And I'm also in an environment where I work with teams. So my EQ, I have my emotional intelligence also gets tested. I have a team of 6 people that I am responsible for. I have to help them. I have to hold them accountable. I have to give them a vision of where we're going. So in terms of the why of this occupation, it's quite challenging in a way that is very rewarding and helps me feel like I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. The field of finance is vital, really, to the transparency of our public and private and capital markets. And you know what? This one is last, but certainly not least. You all, I've contemplated a career where I can provide for myself and I can provide for my family. And there's a significant number of roles within the field of finance that are good paying jobs. And I don't think that's insignificant in thinking about why I might want to do what I'm going to do after I leave school and enter the workforce. Anyway, Helen Shahzad, that's a bit of a that's a bit of a mouthful in 15 or 20 minutes. I will stop sharing the screen now if that's relevant, and perhaps if there's other questions in the chat room, I'll pause and wait for thoughts and comments or questions.
We do have a question from Joseph. He's raised his hand. Joseph, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hi, Michael.
How are you,
Can you hear
Joseph? Yes,
Good.
We interviewed in the spring, right?
Yes, I wanted to thank you for that. That was a great experience.
How are you? And what question can I answer for you?
I'm well. I hope you're well as well. I am just curious. I liked what you said about the skills of having a knack for working with data, attention to detail, writing and communication, and those are things that I, have listed on my skills on my resume. But at the same time, with zero real experience in finance, I find it difficult to convey that is actually the case, other than a line on a resume. And is there a better way to express that you have those skills? I'm struggling with trying to find a way to, get past the first hurdle of getting your resume to the person. And is there a better way to communicate that to a potential employer?
So, Joe, I recall from our conversation in your resume that you may have had a prior industry experience in music.
That's correct.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. One of the things so here you may be transitioning into a field of finance and you're coming from something else, or we may have grown up in finance. The one thing that, and I was in job search 5 years ago, and I was in job search 3 years ago. And one of the things that I learned from a job search perspective was numbers. And so, you continue to reach out to people who are going to connect you to the people who are going to understand and acknowledge what Joe does. So as I hear your story, Joe, one thing that comes to mind is continuing to network and finding people who will understand what you do and be able to make introductions so that at some point you get a hit. It's not unusual as we're looking for roles. Well, certainly at my level, I won't say that for younger people, but at my level, you might apply for 100 jobs and get 2 or 3 job applications or 2 or 3 job offers. So there really is a significant amount of the numbers game that goes into the process of trying to market yourself. The skills are there. You have it, but continuing to tell that story to other people is what I'd be thinking about as I contemplate your question.
Thank you. That's great. Thanks.
Okay, please keep the questions coming.
You can either add your questions to the chat, or you can raise your hand and unmute. This is definitely an opportunity that you don't want to lose. So don't be shy.
This will be posted, Helen and Shazad, on the website too, right?
Yes.
The content. Okay, good.
Absolutely.
Well, Michael,
I will mention one thing, sort of related to Joe's last question. You may all have read about this, heard about this. Many of you are contemplating going into the workforce. There is, for lack of a better description, a buyer's market right now. The turnover that we have seen at Wintrust and that many companies have seen across the economy, it's pretty staggering. Maybe 2021 was a buildup of 2 years of attrition. The COVID experience, I read something the other day that there was, in 2020 and going into 2021, over 1 million people have retired out of the workforce. There's a bit of a mismatch in terms of the jobs that are out there. There's more jobs out there than people looking for jobs. So I do know from our perspective, the company broadly at Wintrust and ourselves in wealth management having to get creative about retaining people and getting people, just because right now there's been for lack of a better word, a lot of turnover and a fair amount of turmoil. So there's a healthy amount of opportunities out there for people with the kinds of skills that I believe that you all have. So I just wanted to mention that because it is relevant in terms of the job market these days.
I'm just going to ask another question since it seems like I have an opportunity here. I've been looking at internships because I'm in school, and that seems like what a lot of people do. But what are some opportunities that are just, full-time jobs for someone that is entering? What would be like examples of those rather than looking for the internship that would be just, like you say,
yeah,
that people are looking for right now?
So analyst roles are out there. Some in our company, some again more industry. So that could be investment analyst, that could be portfolio analyst, that could be a operational analyst. I know that at Wintrust specifically, we've had some people leave our financial planning and analysis group that sits within the bank. That's a part of finance that's very much dedicated to the strategic management and decision support functions, but FP&A would be, and an FP&A analyst with a finance education and background might be a reasonable fit as well.
Thank you for that question and answer. I know I personally met with individuals like Shraddha and Richard and Ezra on this call that have asked a numerous number of questions with regards to finance, interested in breaking into the finance space. So I'm sure we'll hear from them shortly as well.
Or Helen, it could be short and sweet too. So we can roll different ways.
Oh, hello, Michael. My name's Lucas.
Hi, Lucas.
I had a question about applying for jobs. When you're applying for, let's say, data analyst role, should you put more priority on how you analyze data, or should you also throw in something about communicating well? What's the right way to balance to show that you're a complete person while also showing you have the necessary skills?
Yep. So Lucas, we have a data analyst on our team who came from a technical background, but part of the requirements of the role are what you just described. So the data analyst role in many ways is the conduit from technology to the business, and so being able to translate and interpret information and vast amounts of data is a very, very important part of the data analyst role. So there's going to be things like Tableau and SQL and Power BI, and there's going to be some of those technical skills that people will learn from that background, but being able to speak to how I or you use that information to inform and translate and help people make business decisions is a huge part of the data analytics field and function these days.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's kind of baked into the role, but not as explicitly stated, kind of thing.
It will depend on the, so you could see some jobs out there that are ETL roles, right? And that's and I'll give you an example. Right now, we're going through a project in wealth management where we are consolidating our customer data warehouse. Okay, and so that's across 3 or 4 businesses, and it's across 5 or 6 different kinds of source systems. In order to do that work, we utilize our bank's technology development team. So there are engineers, there are technology development people, there are people very steeped in technology, but then we have people on our team, myself included, who do data mapping, and we do dimensions, and we do attributes, and we help take that information at a lower level and roll it up into something that's useful. So it could be either or. It could be a role that's more on the technology side, or it could be more people on the business side. I happen to have this hybrid kind of a function where the person has a little bit of both. It might just depend on the particular company that you're interviewing for and their preference for what they want in that role, and whether they want it in a technology function in a department or they want it in a business function.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you for that.
Are there questions? Comments? Okay, we have one from Andres. Hello, Michael. I have a question about internship opportunities in finance. I have a background in mathematics and I have a passion in finance, but I am still unsure about what specific field in finance I want to focus on. How would I go about looking for an internship to gain experience and better understand what interests me? Great question.
Yeah.
Another question.
Let me
After
yeah, okay. Let me tell you about the process that that happens at Wintrust, not just Wintrust Wealth Management, and I believe this is also applicable in other companies as well. So companies are going to look for kind of a general profile, similar to what I talked about before about your knowledge, skills, and attributes, and then they'll have, pick a number. They may have 10 internship opportunities. They may have 20 internship opportunities, and they're just going to try and find a match. And so there could be some things in your resumes that exist today around your finance courses where somebody may say, that's somebody that we need to plug into a finance internship for the summer, or we might put them in operations, or they look like they might be better on the front line in sales. It'll just depend on how your story speaks to the specific needs. But again, in our organization, we've had internships in operations, we've had internships in human resources, we've had internships in finance. On the bank side, there are internships in credit analysis and helping the lenders evaluate loans. And so it's just I think a matter of getting your story out there and getting to companies, and then there's a process where there'll be an assessment of your fit based on your skills and the needs. And if you're juniors, if you're juniors or seniors now, well, if you're a senior now, I'm guessing you may be interviewing for roles to graduate next spring and next summer. If you're sophomores and juniors now, I think certainly our window is as soon as we get into Q1 for 2022 is when our cycle for internships. But you may have other companies that are going through that process right now. But my sense is it's probably more in Q1 to hire for the summer months when students are out of school.
Great question, and thank you very much for that answer. Another question is, does Wintrust allocate funds to cryptocurrency, or is it still too risky?
We do not. So within wealth management, we do not allocate. We have a balanced portfolio approach. We also have a value towards bias with our Great Lakes Advisors investment advisor. Cryptocurrency is not currently a part of our approved list, if you will, in terms of investment allocation.
Okay, any more questions before Shazad closes us out? Richard, go ahead.
Hi, Michael. Yeah, I just had a question, kind of in regards to getting, as you mentioned earlier, an entry-level job as kind of like a financial analyst. I was wondering what are some things I could do outside of garnering more work experience that could make me more enticing to employers?
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record here. And staying in touch with people who are, or getting in touch with people who are connected to what you do is just critical. There are pathways that are built into the process in school, but then you're getting your own sort of word out and speaking with connections that you may have. It's really, really vital. There's an interview process that works at the entry level that you may be looking at, where you can put your resume out there and you're posting to the HR websites, or you're responding to a LinkedIn, and that has some value, Richard. But the ability for somebody like Michael Smith to say, "Hey, John, I know Richard, and Richard is pursuing a role in finance, and would you please talk to him?" Right? Some of those kinds of handoffs and connections, they're vital, and just as important, and in many ways more important than the technology enabled. You just go to the HR website way for posting for jobs.
Makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Okay, if there are no more questions, then I would like to end the session. This is the last and final call. The flight is about to depart. All right. Well, I would like to once again take this opportunity to thank Michael. Michael, it's so nice of you to have taken out so much of your precious time to talk to our students today about careers in finance. Uh, we are really very grateful to you. We also remember the awesome experience you provided last semester to our students for mock interviews, and thank you once again for offering your services this semester as well. We look forward
Yeah,
to having you for the mock interviews this semester as well.
I'd like to do that, Shazad, and thanks for allowing me to share a bit of a story of myself and the industry. And if I can help the students in any way, I absolutely will. So thank you for your time and allowing me an opportunity to share here a little bit today.
Awesome, awesome. I would like to remind the students, all the participants, to make sure that you provide us your valuable feedback. I have provided you the link in the chat. Please make sure that before you sign off, click on that link and provide us your valuable feedback. I also encourage you all to look at Handshake, look at the weekly newsletter that you'll be getting this weekend. We have several events that are lined up for this semester, and each and every one of these events, as Michael told you, it is so important to network. It's so important that you spread the word around about yourself. The more you network, the better your chances will be. We keep saying this in every meeting, Helen and I, and even in our preterm. Dr. Kurt Ali also stressed the importance of networking. Today, Michael couldn't have said it better than what we do. So I am so happy that Michael has talked about the importance of networking. Please take advantage of attending these sessions and networking with speakers. This is a great opportunity for you to meet people from the industry and learn from their knowledge and experience. With those few words, I would like to once again thank all the participants. I hope you all had a great session and learned quite a bit today from Michael's knowledge and experience. Once again, please remember to provide us your feedback. Thank you all, everyone. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Bye, Shazad. Thank you. Take care now.
Bye bye.